Thank you for coming, everyone. My name is Joseph Campbell, and I'm the president of Seneca Lake Guardian, a Waterkeeper Alliance affiliate. I'm also president of another organization called Gas Free Seneca that has been fighting LPG storage on the south end of Seneca Lake for over 7 years now. But we're here for a different matter. We're here because a company wants to build a massive garbage burning incinerator in the town of Romulus, in literally at the bullseye center of the Finger Lakes Wine and Tourism region. So I'll be acting as the MC tonight, this afternoon rather, and I'm going to introduce our first speaker. Michael Warren Thomas has hosted radio shows about wine, food, gardening in the Finger Lakes every weekend for 24 years on WSYSL 1040 AM. Michael also co-founded New York Wine Spotting, a program to encourage restaurants in New York State to feature more local wines, like wines produced here in the Finger Lakes. Michael?
Thank you, Joseph. My name is Michael Warren Thomas. I'm the host of the Grapevine radio show in the Finger Lakes, and covered the growth of this region for almost a quarter of a century. We're here today to appeal to Governor Cuomo to reject a proposal that would essentially reverse all the crucial investments the state has made in the region, completely alter the makeup and identity of the Finger Lakes. It's a critical time for the Finger Lakes brand, as world-class winemakers from California, Germany, and France have already invested millions of dollars in the Finger Lakes over the last 6 years. Circular Energy, which formed last year, is proposing to build what could be the country's largest, not the county, not the state's, the country's largest trash burning facility in Romulus, New York, located squarely between Seneca and Cayuga Lakes in the heart of the Finger Lakes, with wineries 5 miles to the east, 5 miles to the west. The facility would be constructed a mere 3.5 miles from Seneca Lake, less than a mile from a residential facility for at-risk youth, and 3,200 feet directly downwind from a K-12 school. If built, the facility would receive nearly 3,000 tons per day from places outside of the Finger Lakes, presumably New York City, using 260 trucks. These are semi-trailers per day on our roads, and eventually incorporating trash trains. This is a developer with no experience in the solid waste industry, who has worked hard to remain hidden behind his legal representation. It's also unclear who the investors are, but we believe the funding for the facility will be facilitated by a program referred to as EB-5, allowing foreign nationals to invest in the facility in exchange for citizenship in the United States. Trash incinerators are the costliest way to generate energy. The handful of permanent jobs created will put a $2.8 billion wine and tourism industry that supports 60,000 jobs, nearly 60,000 jobs at risk. Contrary to Circular Energy's mistaken assertion that trash incineration is renewable energy, New York State does not include trash incineration as a form of renewable energy. We see the 24/7 burning of massive amounts of garbage in the heart of the growing agricultural and wine tourism region for the next 50 years, again, 24/7 for probably at least the next 50 years, as renewable pollution. It may be within the legal limits set by the EPA, but it is pollution 24/7 for again, maybe 50 years. We don't need renewable pollution, we need truly renewable energy. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Our next speaker, Sue Ellen Balloff, is a resident of the town of Romulus, a member of the Romulus Town Planning Board, and a real estate agent, a realtor. She was drawn to this area in 2002 by its beauty, the lakes, the many recreational opportunities, wineries, and farms. And I'll leave it at that because I'm sure Sue Ellen will embellish. Sue Ellen?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning. As he said, my name is Sue Ellen Bailiff, and I am a member of the Town of Romulus Planning Board. I am speaking on behalf of the Town of Romulus when I say that our community is largely opposed to this trash burning facility. The Town Board is unanimously opposed, as is the Planning Board. Please allow home rule and our local law to take precedent. We asked that the governor make a public statement opposing, I gotta turn the page here, opposing the project, and to direct all of his agencies to also oppose the project. Our zoning laws were drafted with the intent to keep trash-related industry out of our town. Our tax assessor has stated that property values of homes located near trash burning facilities decrease by 30%. That means our schools, our fire departments, and many other local services would see a huge financial hit if Governor Cuomo does not act to reject this proposal. Our area property, an area property owner has written to our planning board stating that a buyer walked away from a purchase 1 week before the closing because the buyer learned of the prospect of a trash incinerator in the town. And as a local realtor, I have already experienced 2 buyers walking away from purchasing vacation or retirement property in our area. If not for the loss of property values and income to support our local services, Governor Cuomo should reject this proposal as it impacts the health of our residents, our children, our families. The proposed trash incinerator is 1,800 feet from residential housing and a large apartment complex. The developer proposes to build this trash incinerator facility just 3,200 feet from the Romulus Central School, which would be exposing our town to toxic emissions released from its 260-foot smokestack. The Romulus Central School District School Board came out opposing the trash incinerator. There's a public statement available. Those same emissions would also have adverse effects on the region's flourishing wine industry. Our town is located in the midst of the wine and tourism industry, which is the driving economic engine of the region. There are several dairy farms as well as other farming enterprises in our area. It would be a mistake not only for the town of Romulus, but also for our neighboring communities to entertain an industry that would threaten our growing industry. Many of the area towns have issued public statements opposing the trash incinerator. This project not only affects the residents of our town, but the surrounding area as well. Additionally, Assemblyman Paul Masano and Senator Pam Helming have issued statements opposing the trash incinerator. Circular Energy has withdrawn its application with the town of Romulus and intends to apply through the Public Service Commission under the Article 10 process. We trust that the PSC Commissioner Rhodes will honor his statement from the January 30th Lockport Union Sun Journal to protect and accommodate the concerns of local communities, and that Governor Cuomo will support the time-honored home rule of local municipalities to strongly and publicly oppose the trash incinerator project in Romulus. We ask that the Governor Cuomo make a public statement opposing the project and do not let the Article 10 process even start. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue Ellen. Our next speaker is Nancy Ireland. Nancy is a winemaker and co-owner of Red Tail Ridge Winery just south of Geneva on Seneca Lake. Red Tail Ridge is the first LEED Gold certified green winery in New York State. Nancy and her husband moved to the Finger Lakes from California a little over 10 years ago. Nancy was formerly the Vice President of Viticulture and Enology, Research and Development at Ernest and Julio Gallo Winery, and received her PhD at the University of California, Davis, while working with Dr. Carol Meredith in the Viticulture and Enology Department. Nancy.
Good morning. I'm the winemaker and co-owner at Red Tail Ridge Winery, located almost directly across the lake from this proposed trash incinerator. My husband and I are fundamentally farmers and stewards of the land. We practice sustainable viticulture, and we are, as mentioned, the first LEED Green Gold winery in the state of New York. We utilize geothermal energy for all of our heating and cooling, and we recycle all of our winery waste. We have invested all of our savings, time, and effort into creating a world-class destination for agritourism. We have lived in this area now for over 10 years, and we were drawn here by the opportunity to join the current grassroots craft food, beverage, and small business revolution in the Finger Lakes. We believe in this community, and we practice what we preach. Given our focus on renewable and alternative energy, we've learned a great deal about the science behind these technologies. Burning trash is not a renewable energy source. According to the US EPA, waste-to-energy incinerators and landfills contribute far higher levels of greenhouse gas emissions and lower overall energy throughout their life cycles than source reduction, reuse, and recycling of the same materials. While my husband and I are making strides to achieve carbon neutrality, this proposed trash incinerator will be pumping out nearly 1 million tons of CO2 a year. The circular energy trash burning project is not compatible with our delicate environment, sustainable agriculture, and tourism. It is not compatible with the health and well-being of every Finger Lakes resident downwind or within breathing distance of this plant. It is not compatible with residents who drink from the municipality water supply that is sourced from the lake. The facility and the trash importation process would be an abomination on our landscape, with its 260-foot smokestack vomiting smoke and toxins downwind to accumulate in adjacent schoolyards, vineyards, dairies, parks, meadows. Circular Energy proposes to build a trash burning facility in order to import 2,640 tons a day of garbage into our community, arriving by means of 30 flat rail cars and 240 trash trucks every day, 5.5 days a week. This project would destroy our momentum in building an agritourism destination. It will send our community backward and undermine the financial commitments that many of us have made, including Governor Cuomo, to build an ecologically sound future for everyone here. The Finger Lakes is already dealing with local landfills burgeoning with massive amounts of imported trash. We do not need to take on even more responsibility for foreign garbage. We do not want to be the garbage capital of the United States. Please support our community and our businesses and our health and well-being by strongly opposing this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Our next speaker, Alan Keel, and his wife, Catherine, grew up in Dundee, New York, on the west side of Seneca Lake. And after a 20-year career in the Coast Guard, with most of that time spent in New England, Alan and Catherine returned to the Finger Lakes and have lived in the town of Romulus since 2002. I'll let Alan take it from there.
My name is Alan Keel. As just stated, I grew up in the Finger Lakes. And after a career in the Coast Guard, my wife and I moved back to the Finger Lakes and have been homeowners in the town of Romulus since 2002. In their initial effort to obtain a special permit for the trash incinerator in Romulus, Circular Energy attempted to sell the facility as a producer of renewable energy, and that would not be prohibited by the town of Romulus zoning ban on noxious and injurious use. A letter to that effect was written for the town of Romulus zoning officer's signature. I recently filed an appeal with the town of Romulus zoning board of appeals to state that these interpretations are unreasonable and that the officer exceeded his authority. It's deeply concerning that a company with no prior experience in trash incineration is proposing to build the largest trash incinerator facility and is promoting it as renewable energy in conflict with New York state policy regarding trash incineration. Burning municipal solid waste can release harmful emissions, including particulate matter, VOCs, heavy metals, including mercury, and toxic hydrocarbons, dioxins, and furan. When inhaled, these nanoparticles can lodge deep in the lungs, enter the bloodstream, and raise the risk of heart attacks, cancer, and reproductive and neurological disorders. They're proposing to build this facility just a stone's throw from a K through 12 school, and if the wind's blowing the other direction, it goes to the residential facility for at-risk youth. We urge Governor Cuomo to protect the health of the children in our community and to reject this proposal.
Thank you, Alan. And our last speaker, Yvonne Taylor, really needs no introduction. Yvonne lives on Seneca Lake property that's been in her family for generations. She's the vice president of both Gas Free Seneca and Seneca Lake Guardian, a Waterkeeper Alliance affiliate. Yvonne?
Thank you, Joseph. Good afternoon. For over 7 years, business owners in the Finger Lakes have been taken away from what they do best, making wine and welcoming tourists, and have fought an industrial gas storage project on Seneca Lake. Unfortunately, the Finger Lakes is once again under siege by a corporation looking to exploit it for profits. Just 2 days after Gas Free Seneca submitted its last filing in the propane storage case, we learned of the proposed trash incineration project. We are both tired and incredulous that another irresponsible industrial project is threatening our way of life in the region. We may be battle worn, but we will not give up our fight to protect what we have spent generations building. Garbage incineration has no place in the heart of the Finger Lakes. This proposal, which would generate 148,000 trash truck trips a year on our tourist roads, followed by the potential for trash trains going by our state parks and wineries, would threaten the health of our families and the health of our harvest, jeopardizing the growing stature of the Finger Lakes brand we have worked so hard to build. The Seneca Lake Guardian Business Coalition of wineries, breweries, cheeseries, restaurants, bed and breakfasts, farms, and other local endeavors continue to stand united to protect the region from dirty, irresponsible projects like this. Seneca County is already home to one of the largest landfills in the state, and we feel that the Finger Lakes has done enough for the trash business. The families and businesses of the Finger Lakes support responsible and sustainable economic development. When the threat of industrialized gas storage loomed over us, we didn't just oppose it. We walked the walk by supporting and embracing renewable energy, which brought hundreds of jobs into the area. Finger Lakes Wine Country won the Solar Champion Award from the Solar Energy Industries Association for choosing to go solar and get off fossil fuels. We also support recycling, composting, and zero waste programs which would generate more jobs than garbage burning and would be safer and more compatible with our tourist-driven economy. Nearly 90% of the waste stream can be recycled or composted, but the state's average recycling rate is a dismal 20%, and New York City's recycling rate is even lower. Recycling saves 3 to 5 times more energy than burning garbage generates, costs less, and creates more jobs. It is also free of harmful emissions and large quantities of residue such as ash, slag, and wastewater that is produced through incineration. The bottom line is that the Finger Lakes region is wine country, not gas or trash country. We must protect the region and keep our waters swimmable, drinkable, and fishable for generations to come. We call on Governor Cuomo to show true leadership and deny Circular Energy's proposal now. Thank you.
Well, that concludes the prepared remarks, and we'd like to open it up for any questions from anyone in the media. Yes?
Is there a time that you guys have to, or is there a time this proposal has to be like denied or accepted at the time frame?
Well, we were hoping that the process doesn't even get started. The town of Romulus is steadfastly opposed to this project. Is that right, Sue?
Yes, we are.
Both the town board, the planning board, and probably the zoning board of appeals as well.
Well, there is an application before them that has to go through the process, the complaint. So I can't speak,
But the town's zoning law prohibits this kind of activity.
Yes.
So And New York is a home rule state. So we hope that the Public Service Commission or the Article 10 citing process doesn't even begin because of that. The town of Romulus is opposed to incineration or any kind of trash transloading, and so that process shouldn't even start.
Where does the process stand right now? I know that they've withdrawn their local application.
Correct.
And, you know, they've said they're going the state citing board route. Have they submitted anything as far as you know?
Not as far as we know. I think the first step in the process is sort of an involved one. They have to write what's called a public participation plan.
Yes, that's like a 150-day process to let the public know what they want to do, to educate them about their.
They have to establish a local presence. They have to
Right.
establish an office, probably right in Romulus.
I'm not sure about that detail, but
But
they do have to.
That's what I.
That hasn't started
That
yet,
hasn't
as far
Not
as.
started
as
yet.
far as we know.
Okay. So what exactly are you, does the Public Service Commission, the State Citing Board, do they have even the ability to shut this down before it starts?
I think that they have the ability to not start the citing process. You know, in other words, if the town zoning prohibits this kind of activity, then the process shouldn't even start. That's our point. And we hope that Governor Cuomo hears that loud and clear and instructs, you know, the different members of the citing board, the permanent members, like the DEC Commissioner, Vanessa Segos, Public Service Commissioner John Rhodes, and the other appointees. And we hope that Governor Cuomo comes out and makes a strong public statement that he thinks incineration has no place. New incinerators, we haven't had a new incinerator sited in New York State in over 25 years. In fact, in the entire country, there's only been one. 30 years ago, there were over 200 incinerators in the country, and now we're down to, you know, just a few over 60. So the trend is communities don't want incineration. The trend is for the communities, for these plants to shut down and not, you know, and new ones aren't reopening. So that's the trend. You know, the trend should be instead of burning garbage, which is, you know, basically is a demand for garbage, we should be working toward. San Francisco recycles 80% of their waste stream. So we should be working toward recycling, less packaging, for instance. I don't know why I use it. I hate those plastic packages you can't get into anyway. You know, so let's get rid of them. Composting, you know, community composting should be a big one. You know, we don't need to. I mean, we can compost food waste, for instance, and turn it into, you know, soil that we can grow things. There are better ways to do it than burning garbage.
So in just the last few years, we've seen this proposal, we've seen the gas storage facility proposal very nearby. What is it about that area that is obviously attractive to these types of industries, that they, despite the local opposition?
We have a lot of open land.
We have a lot of open land. We also have relatively, I don't want to say, we're not necessarily they like to cite these in economically or financially challenged communities, so they pick you know, the town of Reading, for instance, for the LPG storage, one of the poorer towns in one of the poorer counties in New York State. However, you know, they didn't. I don't think they realized that. In fact, one of their vice presidents said, if you had to start over, would you know, put an LPG storage facility in the heart of wine country? Well, of course not. So we have this property, the former Seneca Army Depot, that apparently is contaminated. It's a brownfield. I've seen it, you know, parts of it referred to as a Superfund site. And the town of Romulus is, you know, it's not wealthy. Not very many people live in the town of Romulus.
It's well, I looked on a map the other day, so 2,500, but I
Is it
think
right
it's
around
closer to
20?
2,000 in the census.
So.
We also have clean air which
Ah.
is attractive for incineration projects because you can't site an incinerator close to New York City. It's considered an attainment area where the air quality is already compromised, so they don't want to compromise it even further. So why not build it in a place where there's a lot of fresh, clean air? That's their thought process. Because there are no regulations at this point opposing it.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you all again for coming.
Thank you.
We'll stay here after if you have
Yes,
questions.
if anybody wants to interview, I'd like to.
Get the spelling of you're Joseph Campbell, right? That's easy enough. That's my last name too.
Oh, is it?
You're, right there.
Did you give her your card? Were you the one that wanted?